With that, I will move on right away to Dr. Kevin Njabo, who is the Africa Director at the Institute for Environment and Sustainability. So interesting, he's also joining us here, even though it's very inconvenient for him because he's flying, and so he's joining us from the airport. So hopefully the internet works well. Kevin, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Israel. It's kind of exciting to see everybody, and I see a huge panel of talking about the role of African diaspora. So we just have 10 minutes to give a brief introduction. I know I don't have a response to the questions that I'm going to ask, but hopefully together we are going to put these ideas and talk together. So can you see my screen?
Yes, yeah, we can see us once you put it in slideshow. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I will just go ahead.
Yeah, you can put it in a slide.
So, okay.
Good.
So now what I'm going to do is, since we just have 10 minutes, I will have a lot of open questions. So, which is something we should be talking and responding to. So my talk was just looking at how we can evaluate the contributions of the diaspora to science diplomacy in sub-Saharan Africa. So by science diplomacy, what I meant here, what I'm looking at how we can look at scientific collaborations among the different countries and organizations. I'm sorry if you get a lot of background now from the airport, but just bear with me. It goes on to the next one. So what we're trying to look at the different countries, different nations, how we can look at about ourselves to address the common problems and to build some sort of constructive international partnerships among ourselves. So as what Israel said from the beginning, and I just want to reiterate that fact is the African Union looks at the diaspora as the sixth region of the continent. So which means we are this important vehicle for development within the sub-Saharan Africa. So how do we take on that? And what does that really mean for us as Africans who live in the diaspora? So those are the questions that we're trying to put ourselves together. And when we go back and look at what has been done so far, the different type of research projects that have been carried on across the continent, we see that the diaspora really contributes positively. The diaspora contributes significantly and robustly to the improvement of real per capita income. So what I'm trying to look at here now is stressing on the real per capita income. And in doing that, from what I've been reading, it breaks it down into two major groups. Those that are the high-skilled immigrants contributing to the greater impact on economic development and democracy across the continent, and those diasporans with low level of education, they contribute mostly in remittances, how much money they send back home. So when we look about the science diplomacy, we ask ourselves, what about the responses to the challenges we face today? Climate change, demographic growth, emerging infectious diseases, the things that we see every day. What role do we think the Africans who live in the diaspora can play in these different disciplines? So if we look at the projections from all the different panels, if you go from United Nations Framework for Climate Change, look at the different reports, what you're going to see is that by the end of the 21st century, we're hoping that Africa will host at least 40% of the global population. So which means with a very young population, and I look at the trend in the future, by the end of this century, we should get about 1 in 3 people in the world will be an African. And so despite that, and if you look at the current trend, despite the 15.4% of what we have today in the world population, we just contribute just a meager 1.3% to the global research and development expenditures. When you compare that to the Americas, to Asia, to Europe, we see that we can only be compared with Oceania, which has about 1.4%. So it's really, we need to really step up to see what is causing all these major problems. And if you go back to the different countries, you look at our national budgets, you see that most of the countries in Africa put less than 1% of their gross domestic products into research and development, which means it comes from there, from our own roots, from our own backyards. And so when you look at the diversification of research and development, because we're putting just less than 1%, there's a chronic shortage of skills in research and development. So when you look at the proportions per million inhabitants across Africa, we're just 91 researchers per million inhabitants. When you can compare that to 400, almost 500 million per million in the US. So it's something that in Northern Africa, something that we are really compared. And when we try to look at the production, the things that we do as scientists, or things that we publish around, so we see that we have a very, very low share of international scientific publications, which is about 2.6% overall. So we are right down there. And we look at the patency in the US, for example, it is just less than 0.1%. So we see that it's really, really low. So those are the things that I'm asking. So how do we go from there? If we need to acknowledge, if we need to see the different things that we do, it's clear that we've seen that we all know the importance of STEM research. STEM, when we talk about STEM, we talk about science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and the architectures, or the arts and sciences. So it is really important for sustainable development. It is important for inclusive growth if we need to make sure we can push Africa. Then what then those of us who live in the diaspora, what should we be doing if we need to build those scientific collaborations among the different countries and nations? How do we address these common problems in a common platform? How do we push constructive partnerships? Those are the questions I ask myself. And these are the questions we should together sit as a panel, talk about it. Like I said, I don't have the answers to it. So we just try to look at, well, we need to work in science diplomacy. We need to see how we can put together, but let's look at what we have in the continent and how we can push our policymakers, how we can push our scientists, how we can push Africans in diaspora to really contribute constructively in the science policy of the world. So it's something that we need to talk frankly. So that is my presentation for today. And I'm open to the questions and the